Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, into your 716 Fix. My name is Billy Weltzer. This is episode 5. We're going to get right into it. If you've never listened to this podcast before, it's all Buffalo sports. We're talking Sabres, Bills, Bandits, collegiate, anything going on in sports, we'll talk about it. This is episode 5. This is my capstone podcast. Huge Buffalo sports fan, and I was able to witness a Buffalo sport today. So the Buffalo Sabres played Winnipeg at 1 o'clock. This is Saturday, and they had two new faces enter their lineup. They had Hudson Fasching and Casey Nelson. These are two guys that just signed out of college. Their college careers are over now, and congratulations on them and all their success. But they are now in a Buffalo Sabres uniform, and the Sabres were down 2-0. I mean, 6 minutes into the game, it was not looking good for them. Four shots, 2 goals. I mean, the Sabres needed something, and Hudson Fasching was able to take the puck down the left side, cut back in to the right in front of the net, and slam one home. Essentially, there's no other way to explain it. It was just a good power move towards the net. And Casey Nelson was able to pick up an assist on Fasching's first NHL goal. So those are milestones that these guys were able to get out of the way extremely fast. Picking up your first NHL point, picking up your first goal, it's a weight off their shoulders, especially in their first game when I'm sure they were very nervous. So we entered the second period. It was 2-1. Nothing really happened. Let's be honest. There's a lot of board play, up and down, chances everywhere, but nothing happened. It was 2-1 after 2. Now we enter the third, and it was horrible for the Sabres. I really did feel bad for them. They could not stop hitting the post today. Zemgus Girgensons won a draw, and as his bottom hand, I believe he's a righty, so his bottom hand, his right hand, was turned over on his stick the wrong way, and he was still able to get a shot off. He hit the post, unfortunately, but Sam Reinhart fouled him in, and he buried that, so it was 2-2. So now the Sabres, tied it up, feeling pretty good. Next shift, Reinhart, Eichel, and I believe on their line was Girgensons still at that point. I know lines shifted a little bit, but Reinhart was in the neutral zone, caused a turnover, made a ridiculous, I don't even know how he saw Jack Eichel busting up the middle, but backhand pass led him perfectly. Jack Eichel took the guy one-on-one, beat the goalie, 3-2, there you go. I mean, the Buffalo Sabres, it looked horrible to begin with, and they grinded it out. They kept playing hard. They played solid defense, made sure the other team wouldn't get up more than 2 goals, and they were able to come back. I mean, the 2-goal lead in hockey is the worst lead ever, because once they get that first goal, 75% chance they're going to get that second one as well, because they have that kind of momentum. Now, there are a couple things that I would like to go over. Evander Kane is starting to get on my nerves. I mean, he's a speedy winger. He's got a lot of strength, a lot of power, great shot. But what are you doing taking shots from the corner, from the sidewall, when there's guys either right in front that can get a tip, or there's guys that are sagging off in the high slot, top of the circles, maybe even in a defensive position that can get a better shot on net. All he does is shoot. He doesn't look for his teammates. He gets into the zone, and all he wants to do is put the puck on the net. He's like 4th in the NHL in shots, but he only has 20 goals this season, and he was predicting 40 at the beginning. What are you doing? First of all, we learned from Rex Ryan, stop making these ridiculous, claims that you're going to do something and then not do it. That's ridiculous. I don't do that. That annoys the crap out of me. And now you're going to say you're going to score 40 goals, and all you're going to do is shoot from the sidewalls and hoping they go in. I'm not overly impressed with Evander Kane in that sense. He's a great player. He does a lot for the team, but I mean, he needs to move the puck to Ryan O'Reilly, who's really a playmaker. It's not a one-dimensional, a line there. He's got Ryan O'Reilly. He's got it switched up. It was Nicolas Deslauriers, and then it was Hudson Fasching. But you have teammates, and he doesn't use them. And the worst part is, if he misses the net from that corner, he's giving the other team a breakout just by wrapping it around the boards. Hit the net and shoot it low. And try to get a tip. Try to get those ugly goals that the Buffalo Sabres really need, especially when your skill players, like Evander Kane, aren't scoring. Off that rant, onto another one, not as bad. Jake McCabe, defenseman for the Buffalo Sabres, big fan of him. I really have enjoyed watching him play. Good puck mover, good skating, physicality's a little bit more than I was thinking, but he was burnt. I mean, he was burnt like toast a couple times, especially on Eller's first goal. I mean, it was bad. He was exposed today. He's burnt at least 3-4 times by my count, and hopefully that it's just a bad game for him and stuff like that, because he really is a good player. But if he's not playing well, someone needs to, call it out. I've called out Matt Molson for not playing well. I'm calling out Evander Kane for, having 20 goals, but he should have more, and not playing with his team. That's something that needs to be called out and brought to attention. Now, hopefully, McCabe can bounce back Monday and Tuesday when they have their games, but this is just something I needed to bring up. Watching him get burnt is not something you see all the time. You usually see Zach Bogosian get burnt, but Zach Bogosian was taking over on the turnover category because he couldn't pass all day. So moving on to something a little bit more positive is the most improved player for the Sabres, in my opinion. It really is a toss-up between Foligno and Larson. I think they both have made leaps and bounds from where they were, but I really do feel like Marcus Foligno answered the bell, especially bringing in Jamie McGinn, where I thought that they were going to be battling for spots in the lineup and in positions. Now injuries and player trading, stuff like that, has really given him the opportunity to shine. And Foligno's that big body that can go in behind the net and work the boards, work people in the corners. But he also has, that kind of touch out in front that we've started to see a little bit more over the years. And so I think he's become one of the more improved players for the Sabres. And he could be a huge, piece for the Sabres team. That for a good team, you need 4 lines that are able to produce, give you energy, give you what your team needs. And I think having Foligno and Girgensons, those 2 guys, fill out your third line. That could be a real solid third line if they keep playing well. I mean, the sky's the limit for the Sabres when you have guys that are really producing and playing well, and you have them on your third, fourth line. So look for them to be on the bottom 2 lines in the coming years, but for them to still be effective and the Sabres to need them to win. So just going on to their next games, the Sabres will have a back-to-back away, both games, Monday night in Detroit, and then they will travel to Pittsburgh, and they will play the Penguins Tuesday night. The Sabres are 3-1-1 in their last 5 games, so that's good to see. They beat the Jets, the Hurricanes, and the Leafs, yes, but they're still 3-1-1. They're playing very well from what I can see. A couple hiccups here and there, like their hiccups were early today when they went down 2-0, but they really battled back and played hard. So that's something that we want to see the Sabres continue to do, especially Monday, Tuesday night against teams that are really going to expose you a little bit more than the Winnipeg Jets or the Carolina Hurricanes or the Montreal, yes, but they did lose to them, but Montreal, Toronto, teams that aren't in the playoff hunt. If they can compare themselves to Detroit and Pittsburgh these next 2 games and really give them a battle, I think we'll, get a nice baseline of where this team could be going the next year. So that's what I would say. Watch for the Buffalo Sabres. Hopefully Jake McCabe shows up to play. Evander Kane isn't taking ridiculous shots, and Zach Bogosian isn't feeding perfect passes to the other team. So that's pretty much what we have on the Buffalo Sabres here. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back into the second segment of your 716 Fix. We just went over the Buffalo Sabres beating Winnipeg 3-2 today. Hudson Fasching scoring his first career goal, and Casey Nelson picking up his first career point in the NHL in their first game, so that's pretty impressive. New thing going on, we're going to have a little Buffalo Bandits update at the beginning of every second segment. And so let's just get right into it. Buffalo Bandits are actually playing very well. They have an 8-4 record. They're first in the East Division. They're 1 game up on New England and 2 games up on Rochester. So the Bandits are playing well. It's always nice to be ahead of a team from New England. And Rochester, who has historically been very good all the time. I mean, I'm always seeing Rochester in the top of their division. Really historic team there, especially when the Buffalo Bandits and the Rochester Nighthawks get together. It's always a great game. So that's what's going on with the Buffalo Bandits as a team. But there's one specific individual that I'm going to bring up again, and I'm sure people that have listened to this before are sick of hearing it, but Dane Smith is tearing up the NLL. I mean, no surprise there. But let's just look at how well he really is playing. He has 48 goals, 55 assists, for 103 points in just 12 games played. The next closest in the NLL, obviously he's first, the next closest is 78 points. You're just absolutely annihilating everyone you play. I feel bad for goalies. The guy has 48 goals in 12 games. That's ridiculous. To me, having someone like Dane Smith is irreplaceable. He's like John Tavares. He just facilitates so much, and getting him the ball is number 1 priority because obviously he's either going to score or he's going to set up his teammates. Those numbers are really impressive. The Bandits are lucky to have him, and Bandits fans have got to love him. And so next chance to check them out would be probably the 9th when they're back playing the Nighthawks for, I believe it's Native American night. But their next game is in Georgia against the Swarm. That's on April 2nd. So you won't be able to see them unless you actually make the trip down there. I know I won't be able to, but any diehard Bandits fans, go ahead. But so that's what's going on with them. Buffalo Bandits playing well, and hopefully they can continue it. And we're going to go right into the Buffalo Bills now because there's not really much to really talk about this time. There's plenty of players that have, made some moves. McKelvin's gone to the Eagles, and the Buffalo Bills were able to sign some guys. But that's what I want to talk about is how important it really was to re-signing guys and restructuring. And just because of all the horrible dead space in the Bills cap, I think they're like 3rd in the league with just dead space in their cap that they just can't use because it's tied up with, honestly, players don't even play with them anymore. So you want to focus on keeping the guys that make you successful before you go out and get someone that you think will make you successful. So I think they did a good job this offseason re-signing guys, Incognito, Cordy Glenn with the franchise tag. I mean, countless other guys that are coming back that actually make this Buffalo Bills team fun to watch and competitive. I think that's a main goal of the Buffalo Bills is to stay competitive and not really reach out to people, but keep the guys that are in their system playing well to have them locked up at least for another year or two. Now, we do know the future of those guys that have just signed those contracts, but we do not know the future of Percy Harvin. He went down with an injury last season and just didn't seem to come back, and now it's a situation where he's been invited back to come back to the Bills. They'd love to have him, but he really doesn't know if he's going to be playing any more football. So that's a story I would keep up on in the offseason. It's kind of slow, kind of dry, and the combine's over, the draft's coming up. There's a lot of small things that don't really need to be analyzed, but keep your eye out on the Percy Harvin situation. See if he wants to come back because the Bills are in desperate need of a number 2 wide receiver. I'm seeing mock drafts that have the Bills, instead of taking a defensive tackle or a linebacker or a defensive end, they're going to be taking a wide receiver at number 19, which is their first round pick this year. There's so many ways that pick can go. So hopefully Harvin will come out with an answer before the draft. Maybe it'll help them in that sense. Even if they don't pick a wide receiver in the first round, they can pick one in the second. But I think the uncertainty is might get to the Bills because they're kind of interested to see who's actually going to be in our lineup. And hopefully by draft day they'll figure out if Percy Harvin will be returning to the Buffalo Bills or not. Personal issues, injury issues, whatever it may be, hopefully he works them out. There's nothing more important than the individual more than the game. So hopefully he's doing well, him and his family. But definitely keep your eye on that. So that's your Buffalo Bandits and Buffalo Bills update. We'll take another short break and we'll be right back. And welcome back to the third segment of your 716 Fix. This is going to be just quick hitting on the collegiate sports that are going on around here. We're going to start with RIT, who they won the Hockey Atlantic tournament, beating Robert Morris 7-4, and that gave them an auto bid to the NCAA tournament for hockey. That means they were playing Quinnipiac, the number 1 team, which I believe they were 33-7 this year. 30 wins, 3 losses, and 7, I would assume, in overtime, ties, whatever it may be. They were playing them in the East Regional semis, but unfortunately they lost 4-0. It was going to be a tough test. Quinnipiac's a very good team, but they still proved a lot this season, and especially winning 7-4 in the Hockey Atlantic Finals. They for them it's a great season. Making the NCAA tournament again, and putting up just an impressive year. They should be very proud of themselves. Watching them play, they never give up. I remember watching a game. I believe they were down to Canisius like 5-1, and within a matter of minutes it was like 5-5. I mean, that was probably one of the best hockey games I've ever seen. So for the RIT men hockey team, congratulations to them on a great season. Unfortunately they were bumped, but it happens. Quinnipiac's a good team, and there's always next year. And then moving on to baseball over at RIT, they won all 3 games versus Clarkson this weekend, and the onslaught of Clarkson University continued because the RIT men's lacks, they beat Clarkson 15-10. I mean, no one at Clarkson University is going to be very happy about their athletics this weekend. I mean, that's 3 games in baseball and a game in lacrosse where they got pretty much smacked around. So, my head off to the other RIT, sports there. Lacrosse and baseball seem to be doing very well. So let's move on to Canisius. Canisius baseball, They beat St. Peter's 9-0 today. St. Peter's not exactly the most formidable opponent, I guess you could say, but winning 9-0 always feels good. Doesn't matter who you play. Their lacrosse team, their men's lacrosse team, unfortunately lost 10-13 against Marist. And their softball team lost a couple, one against Fairleigh Dickinson and one against Columbia. Now, moving on to the St. Bonaventure Bonnies and what they've been doing. We all know about the men's team that lost to Wagner at home, number 1 seed in the NIT, and it looks like they just mailed in their game. I don't really want to talk about it. I mean, that was such an ugly game. I think Schmidt might be on his way out. Jalen Adams sounds like he might be on his way out. So it's going to be an interesting season next year. They still got some good players. Plenty of guys that are coming back that are going to be good. But we'll see. We'll definitely have to see. This will be discussed in further podcasts as well. The women's team, again, hat off to them. They made it to the second round, but lost to Oregon State, which is kind of stinks. They had to play Oregon State when Oregon State was at home. They had some huge bodies and just down the middle. My hat off to the women. I mean, they played outstanding all year. I think they were 16-0 in the RC. I mean, that's fantastic. My hat off to them, Katie Healy and company. Just a great season. I mean, there's nothing else you can really say. I think everyone kind of counted out both Bonnie's teams, but they really proved everyone wrong, and I'm proud to be a Bonnie to say that. Now, the other sports not going too well. The baseball team lost to VCU today, 3-2 in 12 innings. A little heartbreaker there, especially after losing 6-5. And another heartbreaker to VCU to open up A-10 play. I mean, that's tough on them. The baseball team, it's one of those things where you're playing VCU, who gets to play at their home a lot more than Bonaventure does. Bonaventure takes that month off to go down to Florida and for their spring training get a lot of games in, but it's a tough place to play baseball up in New York, especially where we are. It's always cold, not a lot of attraction, but for the men's team to only be losing by 1, it's one of those things where they can pick it up. They can find that way to win. They just need a little bit more time, I would feel. I mean, they've been playing well this season from what I can see, so hopefully they can turn it around in A-10 play. Now, the softball team, another heartbreaker. I don't know what's going on here, but they lost to St. Louis, it was at St. Louis, so at least they weren't home, but they lost 6-5 as well. And the women's lacrosse team mounted a pretty good comeback, but just they fell to St. Francis from Pennsylvania. 16-14, so not a good day for the Bonaventure teams. Pretty good day for RIT, besides obviously losing to Quinnipiac. And Canisius is also doing okay with their sports. There are going to be updates on those guys pretty much all throughout the rest of the podcast here, so please keep it to your 716 Fix. Thank you for joining me. This was episode 5. My name is Billy Weltzer, and we'll be back soon.